Okay, so we're going to talk about gain staging, input leveling, output leveling, whatever labels you want to throw on it. We're going to talk about what the heck do you set your volumes to on your Quad Cortex. So there's a video that went around a few weeks ago where, I can't remember his name, sorry, but the video was basically like why everyone is wrong about input leveling and gain staging. And to his credit, he was completely correct from a technical perspective. The advice that people were saying of leave your input at 0 was actually incorrect in a lot of instances to an extent. So that video kind of centered around audio interfaces and plugins primarily. There was a spreadsheet in there that had the Quad Cortex in there, but I'll be honest, it was a bit confusing about that video. Basically, the gist of it was, yes, you do set your input signal, which is your analog signal, to kind of be below clipping, but you want to get that as high as possible, and then kind of tweak after the fact in the plugins. After the audio interface, basically, it talked about headroom, signal to noise ratio, and all those other kind of nerdy audio engineering things that I'm not going to bore you with to go into detail on here today. Today, we're going to talk about what do you do on the Quad Cortex? Because the video didn't talk about the Quad Cortex. The spreadsheet was confusing. I went over the spreadsheet so many times, I was like, I don't understand how this applies, especially once you start delving into different guitar pickups, your string height with your action, all that kind of stuff. It plays a factor in how hard you're driving the input on your Quad Cortex. And we're going to go through a few different little scenarios today, basically. But a really good example we're going to highlight is I've got a clean preset, the Corey Wong Clean Rig factory preset on the Quad Cortex. And I haven't touched any of my input settings, and this is what it sounds like. So first and foremost, let's put this back on clean dry. Let's go into our I/O settings. So my input level is at 0. Now, some people say you should keep your input level at 0 and not touch it, and it's going to be fine. And I agree with that to an extent, actually, because you'll see if I just play softly, we occasionally tickle the red, as you saw. That's fine for chords, and you can see that it's okay. But now watch when I play a power chord and I start adding a little bit more low end into that. It's undoubtedly going to go a little too far into the red for my liking. You can see we're getting pretty high at the end of the scale there, well over that little marker there. Now, it depends also on your playing style. I pick pretty hard when I play, so when I'm playing like, if I'm playing like metalcore or anything fast-paced and heavy where you want to hit the strings really hard, or even if you're playing like Metallica, like the heavy down picking as well, it's going to drive the amp. Now, you can hear that it's actually clipping if you listen like. This is meant to be a clean preset. That is definitely not ideal. So what we're going to do is we're going to start experimenting with dropping the input level. I can see that's quite a bit, so I'm going to go down 4. We may even need to go double that. See, I think that's okay. We're still hitting the red, but I'm pretty okay with that. For this anyway. I mean, some people are of the opinion you shouldn't go into the red at all. I think it's okay in some instances, but yet again, I'm not an audio engineering mastermind professional. I'm just a guy in a bedroom with a microphone and a guitar, so. I can see that it's still clipping, so I would probably go 4.5, and I think that would be okay for this guitar. We got a JCM 800 Brit 2203 preset here. Let's hear what this sounds like. You can see that our input volume should still hopefully be the negative setting that we've set, negative 4.5, that's correct. And we shouldn't be clipping or anything like that still. Probably clipping a little too much for my tastes. I'm actually going to put this down to 5. See, once again, I think the argument that many people miss is we're not all picking the same kind of intensity. Some of us aren't hitting the guitar as hard as I might be or as a metal guitarist might be, because as I was saying before, if I'm playing like a metalcore, and I wouldn't do it on this guitar, but I can see I'm still hitting too hard in the red, but we're only going into it sometimes, so I'm actually okay with that in that instance. But if we go to we can see on our output, our out level should be okay. Another little thing I guess these arguments miss is that when you start adding stuff into the signal chain, the volume can go up. So if you have a lot of pedals and stuff in there, you're actually introducing, I guess you're introducing more noise into the chain. The output can be higher in that regard, but. God, that sounds good. Let's see how this one sounds. That's just a classic rock tone, right? Like. Juicy low gain. I'm guessing that could be something a little bit cleaner. And then a solo boost. Great sustain. That's awesome. But yeah, as we can see in this instance, sounds great, but we've touched our input setting here. So we're at -5. So if I were to play that again, versus I think that still sounds fine. Like, it doesn't sound terrible, does it? So in this instance, I think even if you had it at 0, it wouldn't actually matter. And if you're just picking like normally, However, if you're like me, you have more than one guitar and all the pickups are different. So this one has Fishman Fluence, modern pickups in there. And these are active pickups. Now, I find with the Charvel DK24 that I showed you before, the pink one, that those pickups, even though they're passive pickups, they've got a fair decent amount of output. I don't know how they compare to the Fishman Fluence, but we're going to play now and kind of see where we land on the input level here. I mean, that's that's perfect. I mean, maybe it ironically has too much taken off because we're kind of not even clipping, but by all means, that's fine. As you can see, we switched between those two guitars and the input levels were the same. I was actually surprised about that because I thought the Charvel would be a little bit more quiet than the Fishman's. But how does that compare to 0? I actually think, see, this is once again where the confusion sets in because we were going into the red, sure, but we weren't clipping constantly. We weren't in the red. We were kind of going in, we were going out. You'll watch when I play. If we were to wind back, I would probably even go something a little less extreme than what we had before and go like -2. I mean, that sounds fine to me, and if I plugged in my Charvel DK24, it would be okay. What the underrated feature of this allows us to do is you can actually use your guitar volume a little bit better when the volume input level is set on the Quad Cortex properly. So we want like a Smells Like Teen Spirit type intro. Yeah, that's probably a bad example because that's a high gain tone, but. That was interesting. Did you notice when we were playing there, the input level wasn't even registering? Like, it does want to hit hard, but look. Put on solo boost on this preset. So I think the point here and the confusion that when it comes to it is there's really no right or wrong way, right? Like you can see that at 0, this guitar was acceptable. Sure, we may have been going into the red a little bit. And if you ever found that your amp was too distorted because it was being hit too hard, you could probably just wind back the gain, and I think that would work in that instance. Like, we made a really minimal adjustment here. And that sounds fine to me. Like, so here's the thing. Here is the lesson of this: is should you touch your input level on your Quad Cortex? Yeah, sometimes. I think you should sometimes. Some guitars clearly need it. Some guitars don't. In fact, I'm going to grab a guitar that has P90s in it now, just to vary this input level debate and kind of show you how the Quad Cortex handles. Okay, so I've got my Epiphone here, and I believe this has P90s in there. P90 pickups. It's a little bit dirty, but obviously, you know, some hollow body guitar as well. And this one is sometimes a little bit kind of louder. I mean, it's louder in the room to play. But we're going to set this to 0 and kind of see where this one lands on the input level debate as well. Ironically, too quiet. You can see we're kind of, it's fine, but you can see we're not getting kind of near the max signal to noise ratio. Instance, I think the spreadsheet that that original video had was 2.8. So let's see what 2.8 does. In this instance, we ironically had to come up. Now, I was kind of expecting that it would hover around the same level as my Charvel and my Les Paul with the Fishman Fluence. But you can see we had to actually come up here. Which, I mean, is fine. Let's go to like more of a dry. Or the low gain, actually. Now, could you get away with having this at 0? I think you absolutely could. See, once again, the 0 debate comes in. I think some people conflate what they're hearing with their guitars and assuming that's kind of the right way of doing it. And I think what we've shown here is there's no right way. There's no one way. Like, there is a technically correct way, and that is obviously boosting your signal to noise ratio, where this one clearly needs, if you want to kind of get technical, it needs to come up. You could even argue, you could probably take that up to 4. We probably will clip, but... No, surprisingly we don't. So I think we're at negative 4.2 on the other guitars. We've come up 4.2 on here now. So that's come up 4.2. And then if we keep it at 4.2, back to 0. I can hear it lost a little bit of its definition, but let's look for a clean preset in here. What's a good clean? Like a Roland Jazz Chorus. Oh, acoustic sim. That could be good. Let's use the acoustic sim. Now, I don't know if there's anything. Yep, just one. So never used the acoustic sim before. Hey, it's not too bad. Okay, but let's go back down to 0. To my ears, that sounds thinner, and we've lost a bit of the signal, so it kind of doesn't sound as good, but once again, especially on the higher strings. This is 4.2. I don't usually play this guitar that much, so I'm going to keep it at negative 4.2. The one thing I think we've learnt from all of this is that setting it to 0 is fine. Like, if it looks good at 0, and it sounds good at 0, leave it at 0. If you find that you need to come up, like I did with this guitar, increase it. If you find you have to bring it down, like I did with the Fishman Fluence and the DK24 guitar, bring it down. Like, play around with it, but for the most part, you could get away with it being at 0, and I'm sure, to be honest with you, most people probably wouldn't notice, unless you're constantly in that red part there. Like, say if your signal looked like this. Let's just exaggerate. Or maybe a little bit more. So yeah, no one's going to enjoy that, and it's going to be clacking and clicking, and it's going to be tons of noise, especially a high gain tone would sound terrible. You can see, even at 0 for this, it's fine. It's quiet. I would come up, but you could probably do other things to do something to it. So at the end of the day, I would do what sounds good to you. Like, if you don't want to fiddle around with this stuff, keep it at 0. It's fine. Keep in mind, this is going straight into the Quad Cortex. I don't know the technical specifics about it, you know, whether it's 24-bit or 32-bit. I don't think it's 32, but there are all these other little variables at play here with the sound as well. They kind of give you a little bit more leniency. So in a lot of instances, even with high gain stuff, if you're just kind of going into the red occasionally or a little bit, honestly, it's fine. You don't need to really go to the extent of trimming back. But if you're obviously not hitting that mark, I play pretty hard. So obviously, like, if I'm playing soft, that's a little too quiet for me, as I was saying before. So I would, for my playing style, I would go. That to me looks about where I would want it. But once again, that's my opinion. That's what sounds good in my ears. Hopefully it's transitioning well into this video, but don't stress about it. You know, there's technically correct, and then there's what sounds good to you. You know, everyone has an opinion. There are technical ways, you know, proper ways of doing this stuff. But if you're just playing in your bedroom YouTube videos, you're playing a live show, there's other factors that are going to affect your sound more than the input level. And I would say in 99% of cases, you know, a crappy PA system, dead strings, you know, all those other little things, you know, poor intonation, you know, a faulty lead, whatever, you know, power issues. those are the things that you're probably going to find in most cases. They're going to have more of an impact on your sound than the input level. I would confidently say, after testing a few of my guitars, 99%. Say, for example, a rare instance where you have some super high powered, modded pickup guitar where you're doing like an 18 volt mod and it's just pouring out, excessive, pickup power, then you probably would want to dial it back, I imagine, because you're going to be in the red. But at the same time, you can hear the Quad Cortex even when you go into the red. There's something about it where it kind of seems to have more headroom than you think. That's just kind of like, a general guide, that little meter, but you can go into the red and most cases, no one's going to notice any difference. So hopefully that kind of cleared it up. And once again, it's just my opinion. So, you can correct me in the comments if I, was wrong about something or whatnot. But at the end of the day, it's kind of hard to be wrong when it all comes down to what sounds good to you. What sounds good to me may not sound good to you. What sounds good to you may not sound good to me. That's just how it is, and that's how it's always been when it comes to audio and music. So just have fun. Don't read into it too much, But I would say, the input level, you probably do want to tweak it, but you don't need to touch it as much as you think. And there are little things you can do to kind of, in the chain and whatnot, to kind of bolster that up or bolster it down. But the general rule of thumb is that if your signal is bad, then once it's converted to digital, it's going to be even worse sort of thing, garbage in, garbage out sort of thing. It's like a microphone. You turn the volume up too high and it's distorted, unless you're using some kind of magical AI tool that de-distorts something. That's a really good example of your source volume kind of does matter. But yeah, don't stress about it too much. Let me know your opinion in the comments, and I generally don't do videos along these lines. I just generally do, Quad Cortex tone recreation videos and all that kind of stuff. But I kind of wanted to make a video on this because I'd seen there's a lot of confusion even after that original video pertaining to the Quad Cortex anyway in the community. So hopefully that kind of cleared things up and made you feel a little bit better. And yeah, hopefully I'll see you around the next video. And if you made it this far and all my rambling and whatnot, thank you very much for watching, and hopefully see you in the next video. See you later.